Our next speaker, right, is absolutely amazing, great. She's behind the scenes. She does a lot of wonderful work. She's actually the person who talked me into jumping out there and running for school board. I still don't know how she did it, but it was a wonderful opportunity, a great experience. So, I've had a great relationship with this individual, and again, what she's going to come up here and talk about, I think, is extremely important. So, without any further interruptions, Miss Ange Morris, thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm glad that we have a lot of people in the room. Just kidding. I'm not a comedian, but my family thinks that I'm hilarious because I have like corny jokes. So when I tell the jokes, they're like, and then when they think about the jokes, they're like, that's funny. That's funny. So before I start, I'm going to tell you a little funny joke, just because I feel like everyone's in a room and you're listening, but it's like a little tense. So what I do is when I talk to kids in the high school and middle schools, I like to break up the room with an icebreaker or relax the room because people, with my title, I'm not coming after you. I'm just giving you information. What I'm going to talk about is totally different for what I do. But before I do that, I want to tell you a little joke. So why does the basketball, what's the difference between the basketball, what's the same thing as the basketball and the baby? They both dribble. I'm a basketball player, so I had to tell that little joke. So as again, you laughed. But if you saw my title on Facebook, who I am, I'm Ange Morris. I'm the Executive Director, Human Rights Commissioner for Schenectady County. That is what I do. That is not who I am. Okay? Thank you. Appreciate it. So I'm going to give you a little bit background on myself, tell you a little bit about what I do in my role, tell you a little bit about my personal story, and then tie it at the end of some best practices or strategies or some tools to give you as a community to go back to your local business, organization, school district, whatever you do, and implement what I've done as an experience and real life story. Everything I'm going to tell you today is not what I read, what I heard, but what I've done and what I experienced. What I do here in Schenectady County is I work with all local businesses, nonprofits, faith communities, all the school districts, elected officials, law enforcement, criminal justice, juvenile justice systems. I work with everybody. So that sounds like I don't sleep. You're absolutely correct. I work on behalf of the community, making sure everybody's rights are protected and respected. I make sure that the local issues that impacts every community are addressed, dealt with, and making sure that there's constructive solutions to problems that impacts everybody, and making sure there's mutual respect and understanding amongst all groups, creeds, racial groups, and on, and also teaching and training people about the basic human rights and also the basic human rights laws here in New York State. The other thing that I do is I'm ally to those school districts. I work with parents, I work with youth. My heart is youth because of when I tell you my story, you'll understand. The sessions or the segments that you've heard, it's an alignment that we are in tonight, talking about living your dreams, talking about the branding of volunteerism and mentorship. And what I'm going to talk about is going to be tied into the first and second segment. What I'm going to talk about is bringing effective change to wherever you're at, but within that effective change starts with yourself. The world is our university, and everybody in it is a teacher. But when we wake up, we have to make sure that we go to school. The other thing is, We learn from our highs, we learn from our lows to ride on our highs. My story. My mother was a single mother of 4 kids. She worked in the community, worked in the church. I'm a PK kid, so preacher's kid. PK. Born and raised in the church. Very, very Christian biblical principles. You can't do this, can't do that. Against all dealt with the conservative views on homosexuality and all that. We won't get into the religion part. Born and raised in the church, mother working in the community. She was an advocate for public education. We were in public schools. It was when I was in 5th grade, a counselor said to my mother that she would never be nothing. I will be a C student. My mother said, "How dare you tell that to me when my daughter at home is taking care of our family." I never had a childhood because my mother was out in the community working at church, working with the politicians. She was the president of the municipal housing board. So we were in public housing, but she worked for the state administrator at SUNY. Never knew my biological father. And I'm going to be very transparent with you. So some of you all that know me, you're going to hear something that's probably going to wow you. Never knew my biological father until I was 35. Me and my brothers and sisters, we were raised. We had uncles, strong men around us from the church, uncles, community basketball coaches, baseball coaches. We knew about mentorship, role models, fatherhood, but we didn't really get to know our father. When it was told to me that I would never be anything, nothing, I channeled that anger into academic or sports competition. So what I did was I got involved with basketball. I played basketball from the age of 6 until right now. I actually played yesterday, I did some hoops. I'm a super athlete. I run, ride, swim, play all types of tennis, sports. I don't know if some of y'all could come play me in basketball, but we'll have a basketball game afterwards. But growing up, I said I'm going to be something. I always wanted to be a judge, but before that, I wanted to be a prosecutor. But before you become a judge, you have to be an attorney. So I channeled my anger into competition and academics. Worked my way through middle school, high school. Through high school, I had a learning disability that every time I studied for a test, I blink out. I know some youth probably in this room had that same disability, learning disability. There's nothing wrong. But at that time, I guess there was a stigma. And I'm going to be nothing, blink out. So worked through college, high school. My mother was very involved with the community. And when I got to high school, I was top of my class. Went to Hudson Valley. My mother got remarried. We came here 21 years ago, so I'm not from Albany. I'm not a native of Albany. I'm from the southern tier part of the state, Binghamton, New York. We came up here 21 years ago after I graduated, went to Hudson Valley, got involved on campus, student senate, student government, was involved with the president's council and all that. Transferred to UAlbany, went to UAlbany, Great Danes. It's a great day, great night to be a Great Dane. Graduated, top of my class at UAlbany. But I graduated from high school, top of my class. They said I would never be nothing. Went to UAlbany. I was on my way going to law school, Syracuse or Albany, law. Something told me, look into the internships. Did internship at the State Assembly. Did the State Assembly internship. My mentor was my assemblyman, Ed Sullivan. He says, Ange, save yourself $150,000. You don't have to go to law school to work in public service, to be in politics. Okay. So I worked in the legislature, and little did I know that destiny was going to hit my door. We all are here for a purpose. to give life, to be life, to give love. But you never know when your future will be at your door until you forget your past and embrace your future. So, riding the elevator up and down, there was a gentleman I would always say hi to. Hi, how are you? Good, how are you doing? Good. Another day, hi, how are you? Good, how are you doing? Oh, I saw you in the paper. You want to help on my campaign? Yeah, sure. Little did I know that he was going to be my future boss, and that was former Mayor Brian Stratton, who is the current New York State Director of the Erie Canal, who's under Governor Cuomo. So at that time, he asked me to come work on the campaign, worked on the campaign. After that, he won here in the city and asked me to come work for him. I became the first African-American female, African-American to work in City Hall at that time. In order to schedule an appointment with the mayor, who would you have to see? He had to come see me. At this time, people didn't know where I came from. Oh, she's not from Schenectady. She's not. Okay, that's okay if I'm not from Schenectady. That don't make me who I am because I'm not from Schenectady. I had to move from Troy, where I lived at home, to move to Schenectady. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Don't hate me, but I always said I would never live in Schenectady because I would hear bad stuff about it or the depiction of Schenectady. But again, when destiny calls you and purpose calls you, and when you're assigned to certain places and people, God places you at certain times and seasons and reasons or lifetimes. So, Mayor Stratton's office, worked there for about 4 years. Then all of a sudden, working on campaigns. I went to school for campaigns. So worked on, in year 2000, was at SUNY. I worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign. Little did I know that when I went to the mayor's office, she was going to become a senator. First person she comes into the office, hi, Ange. Senator Clinton. Fast forward, after that, out of the blue, I get a phone call from the second floor of who? Governor Spitzer. Client number 9. Can you come in for an interview? We want to interview for this job, this and that. Okay. Well, at this time, I was very tired of going back and forth to Albany, back and forth commuting. So I said, well, I live in Schenectady. Is there anything in Schenectady? Sure. Well, we have an appointment. Where? New York State Lottery. That building right there. Okay. I thought about it. It was very hard for me to leave Mayor Stratton, but I talked to Mayor Stratton. He says, Ange, you got to do what you got to do if you feel this would be a right fit, new challenge. Long story short, went to go work for Governor Spitzer at the New York Lottery, working with Yolanda Vega, doing her, I was working for the communications and did all her press conferences, traveling every day, all day at the governor's office. 2012, so it was Spitzer, Patterson, and Cuomo, worked there. And then all of a sudden, destiny called again. Another assignment was during this time working at the mayor's office. I was part of the agency where I'm at, leading. I didn't know that I was going to lead this agency. 6 years later, I got appointed to the Human Rights Commission as a board member, and then they needed me to step up to be the chair of the board. And then after that, the former executive director, after 17 years, retired, and I had to be interim chair and executive director. So then in 2012-13, I was officially appointed to this position where I'm at, which makes history in Schenectady. I'm the first African-American female, the only African-American female to be in a commissioner level, and the youngest ever in the county. So the journey from I'm never going to be nothing to where I'm at now was a struggle. And so when you see people in positions of authority or positions of leadership or success, it's not about the glory. You know, you see them behind the mic and got an appointments and invites. You have to know their story and their journey, because winning or success has a lot of stress. It's a lot of strain. And in order for you to build your team, your life team, or bring effective change, you have to have certain people around you that, one, has your loyalty, that has your heart, and number 3, has your common goals or commonalities that you identify with and that you know that has your heart. You should have there's 3 people or 3 types of groups that is around you. You have comrades, confidants, or constituents. You are the CEO of your life, and you have to build your team. So as I'm building my team through life, I'm surrounding myself who I want to be like. So I always wanted to be attorneys. I always wanted to be attorneys. So right now, I work with attorneys. A lot of my friends are attorneys. A lot of my friends are judges. A lot of my friends are elected officials. A lot of people that I work with are educators. My family is full of educators and attorneys. So whoever you want to be like, you start surrounding yourself with. But also you got to look in yourself personally. In order for you to get to where you need to go, you got to have the character to keep you there. A lot of people have a lot of gifts that will take them somewhere, but not a lot of character to keep them there. That is sustainability. You want to be in the front line and be on the mic, and you want to do this and do that, but do you have the wherewithal? Do you have the thick skin to combat the battle or the stress of winning? Do you have the intelligence or the IQ to manage the situation? The intellectual IQ, meaning managing that situation of a crisis. Do you, number 2, have the emotional equation, the emotional stability, the emotional security? Are you secure in your own self when you see somebody getting praise? Are you celebrating them, or are you hating on them because you're not being celebrated? Do you have the adaptability or the AQ, the adaptability to adjust and adapt in seasons of crisis? Do you buckle under stress or pressure? Do you freak out and have mood swings when things aren't going your way when you're in your business? Is your staff looking at you like you're crazy because you're freaking out? Do you have, when you have to deliver bad news, do you do it in a accurate, concise, clear messaging? Because clear messaging provides clear expectations, which avoids disappointments. So, are you emotionally stable? Are you secure within yourself? So when you go up, you could bring other people up. So you don't have to get the credit to make yourself feel validated and approved, because you have to have that emotional, addicting approval to make yourself full, because you have voids in your life from either past experiences with your childhood or bad breakups because of the root of rejection or abandonment or neglect. The reason I'm saying this is because when you're in leadership and you're working with other people and attacks come against you, you have to know who you are and be full of confidence. So as I've been in this position, I'm gonna give you storytelling. I'm gonna give you an example of why, as I said at the beginning, you ride on your lows, you learn from your lows, and you ride on your highs. To be successful, you have to adjust with change. The change will determine your leadership, either in your marriage, with your kids, with your company, in business. In order to bring effective change, you have to be that change and have it within personal. You have to have a humble attitude. You can't be the only one in the room that you think you know everything and not have, you have a team around you that has the wisdom, knowledge, understanding of how to do it, who's been there longer than you, and you can't humble yourself to say, thank you, let's work it, I got you, yep, I hear you, I'll work with you. You have to have a pleasant attitude. You have to show love where people come against you, you still got to be classy. Say hi, but even though you don't want to say hi. You got to be patient with people. Right? My patience sometimes wear thin. You got to be patient. You got to be kind. You got to walk in love, in the spirit of love. Do things in the spirit of excellence with integrity and character in order to be that effective change maker, agent, and bring effective results. 2017, we have MLK Coalition here in Schenectady for the last 30 years. For a year before that, I did research around the state. Schenectady wasn't part of that research because I did research from Buffalo to Long Island regarding the MLK permanent designated area road or street. Found that Schenectady didn't have a permanent area road or street. So what we did was we got together and we said, let's make this happen to celebrate and commemorate Dr. King for 30 years for the coalition here in Schenectady. We did the research, we presented it to the city council. They said, well, in order for you to do it, we have to have 2-block window for Dr. King Street. We said, 2 blocks? Dr. King got a national, international holiday. He has road, streets. Schenectady's only given 2 blocks? So what we did is, we strategized. What we strategized is, what we did was we galvanized. We got the community involved in that neighborhood. So we had to do petitions to get neighborhood input and whatever. Make the long story short, we were in the same room for a celebration program. We had 700 people, lines out the door because Dr. Perry was our speaker. The mayor presented us with a proclamation, but as he presented us with a proclamation, he presented us with another proclamation that effective immediately January 15th, 2017. Dr. King Street was live and well in Schenectady. Not 2 blocks, but we got a whole neighborhood named after Dr. King, more than what we wanted. So if you go on Albany Street from Veeder Ave all up to Brandywine, the corner of State Street, that is MLK Junior Way, and that is what we did. We brought effective change. Not only that, the Hamilton Hill community, from that day, April 11th, we had that ceremonial renaming, and we had about 300 to 500 people from that neighborhood celebrate with us. Also, from that day, we took pride in the community took pride. We haven't had not one homicide, murder, on that street since MLK came on Schenectady Street. Economic development has gone up on Albany Street, and you can see it. The Joe Allen Apartments, you see the corner of Brandywine and MLK Junior Way is the new Stewarts. That whole strip has been cleaned up. The neighborhood is now taking pride, and we haven't had any major incidences on that road. So in my closing, as I said, that is how you bring effective change to a locality or your community or your family. You bring people on your team that is like-minded. You bring people on your team that is loyal. You bring people on your team that has the same goals as you. But also you as a person has to feel confident in yourself. And that not only confident, but you have to have those values or those traits of humility, kindness, gentleness, meekness, love, joy, peace. And as you emulate that and bring those out of you, people will receive that. And they will start asking, how can you help me? I need help. And as you become humble, you start getting elevated. And that's what I do. Wherever I go, my access that people may not have, I try to help people to help themselves. And as I help people to help themselves, I'm bringing them into places of access that I may have because my contacts and my networks are not for me, but it's for others. And that is what Dr. King talked about, that beloved community, fighting on behalf of those who may not have what we may have. And everything that we go through is not for us or for you, it's for the next person. So I have more to my story, but I know I had to say it in 15 minutes, and I'm not sure if I'm at my time limit. So just hopefully I was able to share with you some nuggets of how to become successful And success is only what you make it and how you perceive it. Thank you.